Before I start, I'd like to go over what we'll be covering in today's session. First of all, a quick introduction about me and the future of work. Will automation take over? How the labour market is changing, the future market and the skills required, working with technology, a recap, and hopefully we'll have time for 10 or 15 minutes in the end for a quick Q&A session. So before I begin in earnest, let me tell you a very quick story. People often ask how I got to be doing what I'm doing, and I tell them I started at 18 years old in the Royal Navy. I like to joke it was back in the days of Nelson and wooden ships, so hence the picture. I had no clue at 18 what the future held for my work, not in the Navy or outside of it. I had just joined up on the lowest rung of the ladder. However, I did have a clear vision of the ultimate goal for me, and that was to be a naval officer. I had quite a few steps to take before I got there, though, so I identified some smaller goals to get me started. I knew the things that I had at my disposal, what my strengths were at that time, what skills I would need based on the literature and what I was told, and therefore I knew what I had to work on. All of these things created pathways with decision points, and I put a plan around them as best I could. I also knew some of the places, although not all, it could go wrong, and sometimes it did. However, the Navy taught me many of the behaviors I needed to be resilient to that and the skills to adapt to change. Ultimately, I knew I wouldn't get where I wanted to go on my own. I would need to learn and grow, rely on others, and collaborate with others. I did achieve my goal. Basically, I followed a process. I didn't just want to survive, scrape through. I wanted to succeed. My personality demands that I know the big picture and that I stay relevant to it, and I had to drive myself forward to enable my own success. No one else was going to do that for me. So, survive, relevant, drive. In terms of the future for you and your organization, what do you want? And by the way, if anyone wants to know who they are talking with or listening to, that's me in the middle of the picture there. So, what can you expect from this webinar? I'll be sharing some statistics, some research, and my personal interpretation of how the workplace is changing and has changed so far. I really would like to know your thoughts, so please do take part in some of the polls throughout the session. Ask questions as we go along and we'll capture them, and they may be answered in the Q&A at the end. Okay, a little bit of understanding about what is the fourth industrial revolution. Well, let's remind ourselves, the first was about mechanical innovations. The second was about mass production, assembly lines, electrification. The third was about mainframe computers, personal computing, and the internet. So you could say that we're still in that, but we are barreling towards the fourth, which is a cognitive revolution, a thinking revolution, focusing on a total, radical, system-wide innovation at high speed. The difference from the third revolution to the fourth will really be the exploding speed, the breadth and the depth of change. A chap called Klaus Schwab, who was writing for the World Economic Forum, said, "We face unprecedented shifts involving the transformation of entire systems across and within countries, companies, industries, and society as a whole." Some examples of technology providing innovation opportunities: nanotechnology, brain research, 3D printing, also mobile computing, mobile networks and computing. So access to new technology, artificial intelligence, it will spread like wildfire exponentially, allowing almost anyone to invent new products, services, cheaply and quickly. So that's what the fourth industrial revolution is. Will automation take over? Well, here's your first chance to have a go at one of our polls. What percentage of jobs do you think will become automated in the future? I'll give you 10 seconds or so to answer that question. Okay, really interesting. So Between 30 and 50% is the largest there. So 39% of you, 32% of you between 50 to 70%, 17% of you think that more than 70%. Great, fantastic, thank you very much. So according to data from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, these are some of the statistics. 14% of jobs could be completely automated, and 32% are likely to change significantly in the next 15 to 20 years. So 14% completely automated, 32% are going to change significantly. The percentages are going to be very wide and varied from your perspective, your point of view. Here's some other perspectives. 2013 Oxford study said developed nations could see job losses of up to 47% within the next 2 decades. I was chatting with Scott Gardner, Cisco CEO of UK and Northern Ireland, a couple of weeks ago. In a presentation he gave, 90% of all jobs will be influenced by tech by 2020, next year. 80% already require digital skills this year, and you can see that in the recruiting arena. McKinsey, among others, have done their best to predict the activities where automation will gain the fastest foothold. 60% of occupations could have at least 30% of their activities automated. And from their perspective, that is just the start. So really interesting impacts there. This particular slide will show us a little bit about the trends. And I got this from Deloitte Access Economics Australia. I think, you know, it's not to worry so much about the figures, but for me, this is a global trend. So looking at job increases over the past 2 decades, we have moved from routine and non-routine hands work to head work, non-routine head work. And what I mean by that is routine hands work, manufacturing sector, non-routine hands work, skilled surgeons, skilled craftsmen. Routine head work would be sort of lawyers, doctors, anything that can be solved with an algorithm. We're looking that it will be. Non-routine head work would be complex problem solving, and we'll go into that in more detail later. Customer service, conflict resolution. When we shift over to look at the right-hand side of this this slide, again, don't need to focus in on the numbers. What's really apparent is that there is a skill shortage. A percentage, a large percentage of what we call hard skills. And hard skills, emotional intelligence, soft skills, they're embedded in both the hands and the head. They are interpersonal skills, creativity. Basically, hand skills are not shown in that graphic because on average, they are oversupplied. Okay, so are we feeling fear or are we feeling excitement about this? A fun fact is that the difference is about 2 inches. And what I mean by that is the emotional response we choose, is it the pit of the stomach or butterflies floating around at the top of the stomach? The physical sensation, depending on obviously the length of your torso, about 2 to 5 inches apart. So can we shift from fear to excitement by lifting up the sensation by a couple of inches? People believe that we can do. However, okay, some of the common fears that are around and are out there: robots are going to take our jobs, change is so fast I can't keep up, I'll have no office, I'll be on my own. Well, somewhat backing that up is the World Economic Forum 2018 report that says we will lose 1 million jobs to technology in the next 10 to 15 years. Wow, that's a lot of jobs lost. So yeah, we can be a little bit fearful there. Remembering to think about routine and non-routine hand-based work and routine head work. Look at some of the jobs that could be at risk of extinction. Accountants, lawyers, bureaucrats, financial analysts, those are some of the things. But restaurant staff for orders, delivery and cooking, pilots, public transport drivers, automotive manufacture, sales, the intermediaries in retail, health and education, and warehouse delivery and staff. I don't know if any of you have seen a video that's floating around on social media at the moment, but I saw a few days ago a video of Ocado and their warehouse and delivery. It is absolutely unbelievable. There is not a person in sight, and so far, so quick, from order to delivery. Absolutely amazing. So why should we be excited? Well, the World Economic Forum in that exact same report said we will gain 1.75 million jobs in the next 10 to 15 years. So losing a million, gaining 1.75 million. Yeah, technological change is accelerating, but unemployment has fallen globally and technology creates as many jobs as it kills. More of us are working remotely, but we know from science that physical proximity to other people is more important, and especially proximity to creative people. And technology can improve a work-life balance and give back time and space so that we can have enjoyment and share time with others. As humans, we need collaboration, socialization, infrastructure support. So hopefully, maybe the work of the future will be all about filling those needs. So those are some things to be excited about. Other reasons for excitement, some of the tedious and more dangerous tasks can be automated. Health and safety will be improved, and productivity will be boosted, which means efficiencies can be made. And for those of us who, need to take care of the bottom line, money can be saved. So those are reasons why we should be excited. So will automation take over? McKinsey says that the hardest activities to automate with the current available technologies are those that involve managing and developing people, or that apply expertise to decision-making, planning, or creative work. So yes, automation and technology are going to change our work and lives massively, but it is humans that have the ability for deep insight and connection with others. We can display wisdom and innovation in situations where there is no right answer. AI and technology cannot do that at present. The trick is to marry technology with human skills and our advanced expertise. So looking at sort of how the labour market is changing, what's happening to it, from this graphic, and again, I love the graphic itself, this is already 4 years old. Between 1995 and 2015, employment in the manufacturing sector decreased by 20%, and it increased by 27% in the service sector. Why? Again, remember the hands to the head, to the complex head, and then to the heart. Repetitive and routine is going to move to machines, and humans are not going to be doing it. And therefore, we're going to be moving to what we are more superbly equipped for, and AI not so. So that complex problem solving, connecting with the user experience, and managing human relationships. So that's one element of how the labour market is changing. What's influencing the change, or what else influences the change? Well, it's the same thing as what is overall influencing the fourth industrial revolution. Globalization. So, countries and people are interacting, integrating. Many things have become globalized as people come into contact. Economic globalization, countries are coming together as one big economy. We have an older and more diverse demographic. And the source of workforce is changing. So those are influencing how the labour market is changing. The source of workforce, we're moving to full-time managed services, outsourcing, contractors, gig workers, crowdsourcing. And if anybody who's listening doesn't know what crowdsourcing actually is, it's basically obtaining information or input into a particular task or a project by enlisting the services of a large number of people, paid or unpaid, usually via the internet. When I first got involved with LinkedIn, and I've been on LinkedIn since it started, I was amazed at the capacity for people to answer questions, and that's become a very normalized thing. A question is asked, people join in, they answer the questions. There's an immense amount of information out there. People can write books, and do, based on the questions that they pose on an internet base, a web base like that. So how is that going to affect our way of dealing with people? that old sort of HR model of attracting people, developing people, retaining people is moving towards accessing those people, curating the engagement that they had, curating them and engaging them in the project or the task. So it's a shift. Another way the labour market's changing, women far more prevalent in the workplace and are holding more senior roles. Interestingly enough, women currently dominate the fastest growing jobs, the non-routine jobs of the head. Men, sad to say for you chaps who are listening, dominate the jobs most susceptible to automation. What does this actually mean? Well, we all have to develop the skills and capabilities to be able to do non-routine jobs ahead, and not forgetting that massive skills shortage of the heart. And for me, soft skills are mislabeled. They're not soft. They are absolutely critical, and they're critical for the future of work. The labour market's also changing because workplaces are shifting. So we've gone from the more physical to physical interactions. We've moved towards physical virtual interactions, rather like this webinar, and we're moving much more towards virtual interactions. There's a chap called Thomas Friedman who said what's going on is that work is being disconnected from jobs. Jobs and work are being disconnected from companies, which are increasingly becoming platforms. So a lot of work is now managed online through platforms such as Ayoa. These include managing deadlines, delegating work, collaborating, sharing ideas, and communicating, etc. More people are working remotely due to technology. However, the problem is that we still need human connection. What about our fear, if you remember, of being isolated at work or isolated away from work, and our need for socialization, support, infrastructure, and contact? Well, my belief is that if we set up the right workplaces, and I like to think of them as work stages, and we do that now, and we put people at the center, we can grow the skills we need to be better suited for tomorrow. And this will enable people to become smarter, happier, and more engaged. Remember, we're going to be accessing, curating, and engaging. And I believe that HR of the future will be using platforms such as Ayoa to create hubs of learning and interaction, collaboration, gathering the wisdom of the crowd. Many large organizations such as Unilever, Google, Apple have already made a start on this. So, what is the future market going to look like, and what are the skills that you are going to require? Well, here's chance number 2 to have another go at a poll. Which skills do you think will be most important by the year 2020? And again, I'll give you 10 seconds or so to answer this question. Okay, so quite a large number of you see creativity as a skill that you'll need by 2020. That's just next year. Problem solving, communication, leadership. Yeah, so cognitive flexibility, great. Some of you have been picking up on some of the words that I've been using earlier on in the webinar. If you use apps and software already, you are on a tech journey, and a visual and multifunctional app like Ayoa is your bridge to the future of work. By 2020, the most in-demand workplace skills will be creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, and cognitive flexibility. That comes from the World Economic Forum. So technology, including software like Ayoa, will help us to develop these kind of skills. So you're looking to improve digital skills and your digital presence, because that's what's going to get you noticed out there in the workplace. You need to manage your workload from a clever platform that adapts to the way you work. Ayoa, for example, will remind you of your deadlines. It will kickstart your creativity, enable you to share ideas, innovate with others. That is cognitive flexibility, and that's a critical skill for the future. We know that mind maps are creative. I've been using mind maps for many, many years, and a lot of people who are on this webinar who know me know I think of myself as a walking mind map. But there's much more to that. mind maps can help you capture ideas as and when they come to you. They can help you solve problems more critically by exploring different options. And they also enable a critical leadership capacity for big picture thinking. And don't forget, leadership is one of those heart skills. So those are things that you need to develop. All right, so where will those skills be applied? If you remember, we looked at, jobs that we were going to be losing. Well, this is part of the 1.75 million jobs that we will be gaining. So, and remember, we know that the jobs of the future require non-routine head and heart skills. So there's things like remote healthcare specialist, data visualization analyst, social networking officer, professional triber. And if anybody doesn't know what a professional triber is, and I had to go and look it up, it is a freelance professional manager who specializes in putting teams together for very specific projects. And those people will be in demand. We also got remote coach, design thinker, innovator. That's where I sit. We've got digital learning specialists and platform facilitators. Some of these are already developing. There are already people out there who could put this title around their job. Some of the other things we've only just beginning to imagine, like a vertical farmer. Think of what you've seen. Japan, for example, has high-rise flats, and they're growing something on every single floor. A virtual reality experience farmer. We've all got these nice smart home gadget things now. I have a look at them and I'm not too sure what I'm doing with them. If any one of them went wrong, I would need a smart home handy person. Avatar manager. So those are the things that we will be applying our skills to, and the kinds of jobs that we'll be doing. Going back to look at, the digital learning, digital skills, that's one of the most critical skill shortages that we face at the moment. These stats come from the Confederation of the British Industry, 2019 stats. I know there's a lot of them, but it's worthwhile sort of meandering our way around this. So 2/3 of businesses have unfilled digital skill vacancies. 95% expect they will need digital skills in order to grow. Less than 1/3 of businesses are confident that they'll be able to access digital skills they need in the next 3 to 5 years. And 58% say they'll need significantly more of those skills in the next 5 years. 93%, fantastic, taking action to address them. But half of all businesses are fishing in the same pool. So that's a real digital skills shortage and a real opportunity for those of us who are embracing and shifting from fear to excitement and saying, okay, I'm taking this on. I am going to improve my digital skills using stuff like an Ayoa or a platform, et cetera, et cetera. So those are digital skills, and these are some of the other skills that are out there, and many of them you highlighted. So yeah, complex problem solving, decision making, interpretation, design thinking, creative work, listening, human connection, communication. So really interesting. The OECD says that new skills and behaviors are key to staying relevant in the future world of work. However, many adults don't have the right skills or the current behaviors for emerging jobs. And let's think about our young people. I saw a fantastic post on LinkedIn just yesterday that stated 21st century skills are being taught by 20th century adults using 19th century curriculum built on an 18th century calendar. Yeah. So talking of learning, how are we going to achieve these skills? Obviously, we've mentioned using the platform like Ayoa, or upping your digital excitement, if you like. But the World Economic Forum believes that knowledge and practical skills, they're eroding and yet evolving faster than ever before. And also 50% of subject knowledge learned in the first year of, for example, a 4-year technical degree program is outdated by the 4th year. And I'm sure that applies across other programs as well. What we're moving towards is short snippets of learning, and very quick, very fast. one of my wild thoughts is that, you know, our universities will not stay as they currently are. For a start, real estate's expensive, but I don't believe that they're going to stay as centers of academia or knowledge. I do think that that we're going to keep them and they'll be centers of socialization and relationship building. Pretty much probably how many students use the first couple of years anyway at a university. But however, so learning, will it be an on-demand service? Deloitte thinks that learning will be about project-based work, hands-on experience, application with others on the job, and companies absolutely love that approach because it builds ownership, it has application, it's relevant, it's timely right there. So for sure, that's going to happen. McKinsey says it's time for a rise in stronger, more collaborative learning ecosystems. I think that those ecosystems have to be innovative, and we have to have a both and mentality. So we have to be able to map things out, look at the different associations, and there is not going to be an either or, no black or white, no you're wrong, I'm right. It can't be like that anymore. So does all this give you a headache? You are not alone. It gave me a big headache before I started to really understand the topic. Did you know that when someone feels even mildly threatened, even by ideas, even if it's not a truth or a fact, it reduces the activity in our prefrontal cortex? Why is this important? Because that's where we reason and forward think. So if currently you already feel a few threats, I mean, let's look at it. Sometimes we feel a threat to our sense of security, our self-worth, our social standing. So, you know, we can already be operating from a reduced cognitive ability, and that's without even looking or thinking about what the future of work is going to throw at us. This is right when we need to rise to the challenge of uncertainty that surrounds us. It's really hard to feel secure, relevant, ready to drive success in the future of work if you're feeling a bit under threat. So, you know, again, it's thinking about shifting that fear to excitement and embracing what's coming at us. So here's another poll for you. Do you have time to think about future of work, 20 years in the future, what you're going to be doing, what your organization is going to be doing? Really, really interesting response. Almost sort of 50-50. And the reason why I say that's interesting is because I have had this conversation in many sort of the ends of workshops and talking to people, and they have said, no, absolutely not. Don't have time to look 20 years ahead. So I'm really, really encouraged by the fact that 50% of you think that you do have time. If you don't think you have time to look forward, think again. So I've done some work with the UAE for Oxford University. They're currently planning out to 2072, and they plan out to the future in 30-year chunks. And basically what they're doing is brainstorming future scenarios. Now, when I say this in you know, after a workshop or just chatting with people, they say, you know, yeah, but the UAE, they have, you know, they're only 49 or however many years old they are. They've got, you know, wealth. They're not tied down to the infrastructure that we have, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's true. But the Confederation of British Industry says that by 2022, businesses will require a proactive and inventive workplace strategy. So, you know, at the very least, you need to be looking at what you and your industry are facing and understand your first steps. So what can you do now to ensure you're equipped for what is coming? We've been hinting at it all along. Well, you have to do something, because if you stand still, basically you're going to move backwards. And capacity and aptitude, they start with awareness, a change in attitude and action. So even by joining this webinar, you are lifting your awareness if you didn't know some of this information before. Your attitude, we're talking about it, aren't we? From fear to excitement, and you have the ability to change that emotional response and take an action. So what small changes could we make now? Behavioral economics, psychology, and neuroscience, they all point to scores of small practical tweaks, from the way we run meetings, the way we make decisions, the way we manage our time, to make it easier for people to function at their cognitive, that's their thinking, and emotional best. And it wouldn't take much for us to be more deliberate about equipping ourselves and the people around us, the up and coming leaders, with this understanding. We can also make some medium changes to behavior. The reason why I use the term medium is behavioral change is not easy. It takes time, it takes effort, but we can do some things. We can try to communicate and collaborate more quickly in more real time. And we can use technology, the technology we have available, to start to build relationships and community beyond sort of social media, beyond Facebook, but being practical, using it with an understanding that you're going to apply it to the future of work. So what are the benefits? Increased efficiency, increased skills, connectivity, and hopefully some fun. They often say that adoption of something new is helped by it feeling even a little bit familiar. Many of the coaches amongst you who are out there who are listening to this will be familiar with an appreciative inquiry. And that's the reason why I put this in here. I've used it many times with many organizations, and it's a great sort of future scenario tool. You don't have to be the UAE. You can be an individual, or you can be a small team of people gathered around the table. And this is something familiar. It's also closely related to design thinking. And any of you who are out there looking at the sort of the LinkedIn articles or reading Forbes or HBR or whatever will have heard this term design thinking. It is one of the future of work skills. Design thinking really quickly reframes problems in a very human-centric way. It challenges assumptions, it asks questions about user experience. So that's the way that it differs from an appreciative inquiry, in that it's very user-centric. However, appreciative inquiry, fantastic for dreaming a vision of the future, looking at what you have now, brainstorming ideas to get you there, helping you to plan, commit to a change, and building a bridge to the future, which is really what we're looking at doing. So, having looked at or listened to all that I've said so far, just have a think about what you could start to do. If you are doing something already, and I'm sure many of you are, please keep going with it. And there are some things that you need to stop. For example, if it comes to you that that inner voice that says, I can't do this tech, this is beyond me, this is too much, then just take a step back and actually believe that you can, because we're already using tech everywhere. We're using it in our homes, we're using it in our cars. So it's not such a huge step to take to think, well, actually, whenever that voice comes up, I'm gonna kick that one out. And if you need a coach to help you, get a coach to help you. They help you set plans and reach them. So just to keep us motivated, here's a reminder of some of the good news. We are in the midst of a cognitive revolution, but my addition to that, based on that, my understanding, my research, it's a cognitive and an emotional revolution. We can use technology to our advantage, though, to create more meaningful work, gain the skills we need to survive, to be relevant, and to drive. And don't forget that technology and AI have some way to go to replacing us on the emotion and cognitive front. Even the best supercomputers in the world are only scratching on the surface of the capacity of the human brain. It's where we place our focus that we need to change. So looking at, some of the ways we're working already with technology, if we cast our mind back, as I said, it's easy to reflect on how far we've come in our personal journeys in a relatively short time. It's kind of scary for me if I cast my mind too far back and remember how little technology I had. But anyway, we adapt to new technologies every single day. And again, look at our homes. But here's some of the bigger organizations out there. UPS. I just got this from Forbes highlights on the 2nd of October. UPS has got the go-ahead from the Federal Aviation Administration to operate a drone airline, beating out Amazon and Alphabet's Wings. Alphabet's Wing to the milestone. We already know that big cities are facing a millennial exodus, and that autonomous vehicles will drive that change even further. You might think that that's not coming at us anytime soon, but again, if the UAE is an example, they are planning on having all public transport, taxis, water taxis, or to be autonomous by 2032. That was that chunk of time, and they are putting the infrastructure in there now, and that will have a knock-on effect around the world because of globalization, because of learning from one another, etc., etc. So these are very near future changes that we'll need to adapt to. Starbucks quietly building its first ever mobile order only store inside New York's Penn Station. I haven't changed the wording on this. I was quite interested in that, quietly building. I wonder why they're quietly building the first mobile order only store. Potentially because Starbucks and all of these coffee places are fantastic first place opportunities for employment for young people. And that's quite a radical change where you're looking at not having anybody front of house. So, things to think of. That's where we're working with technology. We need to adapt to that. Tech can have its flaws. Busy is the new stupid. So Bill Gates takes it one step further. It's not about, the tech flaw being a frustrating internet connection speed. For him, it's about philosophy. He says modern productivity apps have a flawed philosophy. Their focus centers around speed alone. Good work comes from strategy, clear thinking, action, and to achieve this, we need to see our work clearly. So not enough people have a sort of holistic approach to the use of apps and software. We don't see clearly. Some of us are still married to the traditional pen and paper, impacting not only productivity, but the planet, which I care about. Technology is only valuable when the right tool is used in the right way. There are a lot of apps out there. Some aren't very visual. Most are not customizable to the individual. They're about sort of ticking things off, getting things done, and as he says, busy, busy, busy. So that makes us stupid, stupid, stupid. It can be overwhelming, especially with a different app for every different aspect of work and jumping between all of them. That doesn't help you to create quality, shareable work. It doesn't help you to be productive. It doesn't help you to be efficient. So, think about it. What barriers are you placing in front of your own best work? Here's obviously I'm sitting at Open Genius, I'm working with Ayoa, so I'm going to talk about it. Ayoa and work management apps will help us because they help us have better management of tasks and deadlines. They utilize our creative thinking. It's all been designed around an understanding of how we think, the science behind it. So that helps us to make clearer decisions. It encourages teamwork and communication. Remote work is now more common than ever. A lot of employees expect it. It has many benefits in the form of increased morale, reduced sickness days. People can still work if they need to. The fact that you can work with anyone from anywhere in the world. So we're looking at conferencing. We're looking at cloud software, making it possible for teams and entire businesses to work remotely. We all know about sort of being able to access a piece of a document from a Google Drive or whatever it happens to be. Video conferencing software, there's more and more of them out there. So you can hold meetings without being in the same place. Ayoa has teams in Poland and Singapore as well as the UK. And, the Ayoa software helps with that. So we want to enhance our skills and enhance our future of work behaviors, keeping us relevant and driving us forward. So if you remember that story that I told you at the beginning, I said that I basically had a process. I came to know of it as the success formula, and it works for me. It's really absolutely part of my way of being. It's also part of Bill Gates' philosophy of strategy, clear thinking, and action. This particular success formula comes from the Royal Navy way of leadership, and I have to at this point thank Andrew St. George, whose work inspired this map. The success formula for the Royal Navy was 400 years in the making, testing and proving. It doesn't mean to say they did everything right. It doesn't mean to say they do everything right. But in terms of the future of work, it's the least that you should be doing if you want to survive, be relevant, and drive. We will be sending this map out to you in a follow-up email along with the map of future behaviors and skills. And we hope that you enjoy making them your own and planning your future of work around them. You're of course welcome to join me on LinkedIn. Find me and join me. But you could make a map on Ayoa and you could invite me to it. And you never know, I could pop in and help or comment. I can't make any promises, but I do love it. So I would be really happy to see people sort of creating these maps on Ayoa themselves and inviting me to join them. So here's a quick recap of the main points that we've covered in today's webinar. Let's have a look at that. Will automation take over? Well, we remember those statistics. 90% of all jobs will be influenced by tech by the year 2020. 47% of jobs could be lost to technology, particularly manual and routine ones. So will automation take over? Well, actually, I don't think so. If you remember, we do lose jobs, but we gain more. How's the labour market changing? Well, we've heard that creativity and critical thinking skills will be some of the most demand skills by 2020. Women are dominating the fastest growing jobs, non-routine jobs are the head, and there's a skills shortage for hard work. So yes, the labour market has changed and it will continue to be driven by globalization, the older, more diverse demographic, and rapid technology changes. But we can gain the skills required for that future market. So new jobs created by tech, social networking, if you remember remote coach, professional triber. We are going to have virtual interactions. Physical interactions are still really important and can't be mimicked. So yeah, we have to have the skills for that future market. Working with technology, for me, it's all about awareness, attitude, and action. We've learned that behaviors and skills are the key. Work management apps can boost productivity. They help our workers be more efficient. Remote working becoming more and more popular thanks to tech innovation. So welcome to the future of work. I do wish you survival, relevance, and drive. So really, thank you so much for listening. I'd love to take some questions and we'll be answering your questions in a Q&A session. There is at the bottom of your screen, you can ask any question that you might have about the future of work. And after you exit the webinar, you'll be automatically directed to a short survey. So please take a few minutes to fill this out. We would love to hear your thoughts. So I'll give you a few minutes to write your questions and then we'll have a go at answering some of them. And if I can't answer them, then I'll maybe throw it back to you and have a go at asking you if you can answer them. Okay, so we've got one question that asked me to expand just a little bit on the design thinking. So design thinking, basically, it's a process that's applied in a human-centric way. So and we do it in order to find sort of uncommon solutions to problems, to challenges, to products and service design. It's based in user experience, and UX is possibly a term that you will have heard bantered out there, and sort of the user journey. And it asks questions that challenge our thinking and our assumptions. So once a challenge is properly defined, it moves on to a sort of an active testing mentality. So you build the prototype, you test, you ask for more, develop. Interestingly, I purchased a vehicle probably about 10 years ago now, and the salesman was really clever because he explained to me that they had interviewed a vast number of women, and I wanted a truck. And they interviewed the women to understand what it was about a truck they liked, and then what that they would need. And based on that and the design features that he showed me on that truck, I was sold. That was it. I bought the truck, and that was design thinking. So what other questions have we got? Can we receive this slide deck after by email? Yes, there will be an email sent out. The slide deck will be sent out, and the extra gifts of the success map and the behaviors and skills map, that'll all be in there. How can I improve my digital skills? Okay, so obviously I've spoken in this webinar about immersing yourself in tech more, using the online work management apps in your day-to-day. Take courses. Many institutions offer courses for various skill levels. And of course, a lot of it can be done online from your own home. But if you remember, every time you find yourself saying, I can't do that, it's tech, it's too difficult, then recognize that that's a self-imposed barrier. If you need to, as I said, get a coach to help you overcome that. I have to do a shout out to my mum at this point, because I know she's probably listening. She is so technologically savvy. She's driven the household. She looks at the computer. She's constantly using tech, and she's constantly asking questions. She is an absolute inspiration. So well done, Mum. You're ready for the future of work. Okay. What should those with roles that are likely to be automated, such as retail assistants, do to protect themselves? Really good question. Well, you can look at upskilling yourself now. You could also get into a circle with other people who are like you, and do a bit of ideation, brainstorming about what you think your retail sector could look like. And maybe adapt a little bit to and upskill yourself to move into that arena. Obviously, managers will still be needed to oversee the machines and do the things they can't do. Also look at building a bridge to the customer. So if we remember, we're going to be much more customer support, customer service orientated. So if sit at work, have a look around, have a look at how you can, what difference you can make, how you can improve that customer journey, and be innovative. I would try that first before spending a huge amount of money and changing careers. Those are always options that you can move another career, such as that's more focused on creative thinking and design and writing. But I'm not advocating that you spend huge amounts of money. Look around what you've got now, talk to people, get online, have a look, ask questions, and that's probably the best way to do it. Got a time for just a couple more. How can businesses fill their digital skills shortage? Okay. Well, obviously you are already moving to online processes and systems, but what you could do is offer training courses to existing staff, and not forget that there's a lot of fear out there. So a lot of sort of resistance to change around adopting new technology is around the fact that, well, I'm going to adopt this new technology, this company is going to get really, really swish, and I'm going to be out of a job. So you have to be clear, you have to be honest and open up front, and you have to express to your people that you're all on a journey, and what you're looking for is, the best outcomes for everybody. I often have, a great success with making things digital because I lead by example. So for me, Ayoa is a huge amount of fun, and if it's approached in the right way with people, you bring them on board, and you lead by example. I choose what I want to use, I use it, and then I facilitate the journey for other people. So I think that's kind of the attitude as to what you need to do. And if if you need to be out there in that fishing pool that's you know, half of the businesses in the UK are all fishing in, you've got to be innovative. You've got to get around the table and think, okay, well, how can I, you know, how can I go fish in an ocean and not a pool? And try that way. I know it's difficult, and I know especially difficult in the technical arena, in engineering, things like that. So again, you can create a community, get collaborating, build your digital skills, and ask questions, and come up with the answer together. We're not little islands, so ourselves. Okay, do I have anything else? How do you see older workers adapting and fitting in? Well, if my mum is any example, and I'm not going to give away her age on a live webinar, but there is no problem. It is really honestly about that, you know, changing from fear to excitement and saying, actually, this is just another of life's challenges. I've been through many. I've coped with many things. This is just another one of those things. I'm going to be able to do this, and ask for help. You have probably around you digital natives, you know, those young kids, and they love when you show interest. It's a great way to spend quality time when you get around young people and you ask questions. One of the key skills for the future of work, listening. All you have to do is ask a question, and if you listen well to the answer, you'll be off, you'll be running, you'll be set. So, oh, these are great questions. Thank you so much. I hope I'm giving the, you know, the right answers, if there are any. Let's have a look. How does one develop critical thinking? Oh, that's really good. Critical thinking, it's like, it's a process. So you take yourself through checking whether your understanding of an issue or a problem is the correct understanding. Because if you don't do that initial phase, if you don't define the problem correctly, then you could send yourself or your team off on this winding escapade, and it's not even the right focus point. So critical thinking is a process that starts with a definition. It checks for assumptions. It asks for other perspectives. It takes a view, it takes the best of the best ideas, but doesn't dismiss every idea initially, and it does some analysis around it, and it works itself towards the most ideal solution that there is. So that's critical thinking, looking at something with a process, with a critical eye, and everybody can do that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer this one. Will Ayoa have accessible economic alternatives for us college? Yes, absolutely. It's coming soon. And this is one of the things that I've asked for as well. Don't know when it's going to happen. And I don't know exactly in what form, but there will be a basic version that's coming out that means that you can have access to sort of, you can create, I think it's 3 maps, don't quote me on that, 3 things that you can create. And if you get invited to something on Ayoa, for example, you can, you'll never get kicked off that. You can collaborate for as long as you want. But also in the educational arena, there is a 35% discount on Ayoa now. So make sure you check in and you get that. It really, I can't praise it enough. I've been using it since it came out. Oh, and I'm just reliably informed that the basic version, the free basic version, is out now. So that's really, really exciting. Okay, so I think that's about enough for this webinar. I really appreciate the interaction. I appreciate the questions. I'd like to thank you all for joining me, and I'd like to thank publicly the team here who've helped put this all together. They've been phenomenal, and they've used tech in order to support them in the journey. So really, don't forget to do the short survey, and don't forget, go on Ayoa and create your map and invite me to come and have a look. And as I said, can't promise that I will be able to see everybody's, but I will hopefully pop in on a few of you. So thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you.